yeah, let's make ourselves comfortable in some sort of position suitable for a reasonable degree of awakeness or asleepness, depending on what you want. And I'll just invite each of us to ground in our physical spaces, as well as in our heart spaces. And I'm going to call on those aspects of the divine hierarchy that are best suited for this group and this moment to join us and help us direct our journey. Using the language of the books, this would be the Alpha and Omega order of Melchizedek. I welcome you consciously, and I send gratitude to you. Also, and this ties in with the priesthood of Telos, also welcome to be present with us. Yeah, and any aspects of divine guidance that you feel like calling in personally or for the group are welcome. I want to welcome Sananda and Maitreya, using more language from the book, but this is also my language. So welcoming in Sananda, Maitreya, the energies of the Christ and the Magdalene together. And just allowing ourselves the full enjoyment of being physical in this moment, grounding in our physical space, grounding in our heart space. I welcome in the higher selves of each of those present. And I welcome the devas of those present to be with us, and the devas of the earth intelligences to join us and be part of this process. Further grounding into the body and into the heart. Fully supported by those aspects of the divine that are meant to be with us at this moment, individually as well as a group. And I'm going to welcome in a frequency that balances the emotional body and helps us experience calm on the emotional level, because what we're getting into can be extremely emotional, traumatic. It is for me. So I'm welcoming in some frequencies that are going to help us balance the emotional body and move through this in a graceful way. And we're basically going to go back to a time let's say about 17,000 years ago, or the number I'm getting is 16,800 years ago. A time when Lemuria as well as Atlantis are still on the surface of the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, respectively. And a time when a lot of us in this current group, and also many others who are currently incarnated on Earth, again, many of us had to face some very, very hard decisions. So at this point in time, about 16,800 years ago, the sinking of Lemuria and Atlantis was already known as something that was going to happen, but it hadn't yet happened. And there was much deliberation about how to handle it, how to weather the earth changes. Just find yourself at that time, wherever you were. For most of us, that's a literal past life, and it'll be very easy to tune into. For some of us, it might feel more distant or imaginary. No matter, just go into whatever it is. And just remember, as the intense emotions surface, that we're under divine guidance and protection, and we have tremendous support for the balancing of our emotional bodies in particular. You might want to just tune in with some basic questions like, who am I, or who was I? What are my goals, or what were my goals at that moment? Maybe you're a human living on the surface. Maybe you're a dolphin. Maybe an etheric spirit. Whatever form you take is fine. And as we enter this time, we carry an awareness in our bodies that everything that is to happen is for the greatest good. You might ask if you have some role in preserving Lemuria or Atlantis. And just as we mentioned earlier, we're going to start to just offer this experience, these energies, to our higher selves in the interest of transmuting them and starting to clear these karmic patterns. So that's a thread that's going to be running throughout the rest of the meditation. You don't have to keep your focus on it, but it's going to keep going. On behalf of the group, I'm going to say that we intend to help clear this karma and heal from the trauma that was created at this time. And we call upon divine guidance and witness as we access this part of the Akashic record. We do so with great compassion and humility in the interest of serving all beings. The process of resolving this karma, again, is going to continue for the rest of this experience, as well as after this experience. So we can trust that that is going strong, that our intention is heard. And we'll allow ourselves to go just a little bit more deeply into that time and place. You might notice some big differences in how you feel. The degree of activation of your light body is much greater at that time, most likely. Start to feel into what your normal state of being was at that time. Very likely much brighter, more in touch with the spirit realms. With the full activation of your DNA, your etheric body, and your light body. And if you like, you can just trace the path from there to here, noticing with great compassion and free from judgment the changes in consciousness that have happened. Becoming less aligned with our light bodies and more aligned with our physical bodies. From your current vantage point, you can just gently, lovingly take it in. Notice the transitions that are to come. And start to be aware of the many changes in your experience that result from this. Stepping away from the light. So we're still there 16,800 years ago, and we're also just looking with detachment along the timelines to the present. And remembering what you knew then, that the fall in consciousness is for the greatest good, although it may not seem like it. And the thread continues of clearing this karma, healing these experiences, balancing the distorted energies. That thread continues. If you feel like asking for angelic assistance, you're more than welcome, or any other kind of divine assistance in this process. And slowly, easefully, we're just going to let our point of view move forward in time a little bit. Just taking a long look at that next maybe 1,000 years. From this perspective, it's not that long of a time. And if you find yourself starting to leave your body as this is happening, just gently call yourself back. Remind yourself that it's safe, that there's no threat in the present, that you're completely loved for who you are, no matter what your state of consciousness is, no matter your degree of awareness of love. You are loved. You are safe. From the standpoint of what we're doing right now, nothing can harm you. So just gently call yourself back to your body and remind yourself of those things. The thread of healing continues. The thread of releasing the karma continues. Now we're starting to look into the time when the flood is more imminent. Whatever preparations were going to be made have been made, or they're finishing up. We're moving closer to the moment where we lost Lemuria. And you may find yourself in several parallel experiences at the same time. That's totally normal. Whatever's happening, you are safe, you are loved, we are being divinely guided. So, whether you see nothing or have very intense visualizations, doesn't matter that much. Just keep remembering that you are safe and that what we're doing is a healing journey to release this karma. We move closer to the moment of destruction. Destruction that causes no harm to you in the present. But at this time, in the distant past, you find yourself moving through it, through the waters, sinking of the earth, the separation from your family, the steep descent in consciousness. These things start to happen. From your present perspective, you are safe. But the loss is real. I invite us each to relate to this loss in the way that feels right. There's no right or wrong way. And it doesn't all have to be processed right now. There might be a few tears. There might be a lot of different kinds of calling from yourself, from those you love, from the earth, from the sky. Whatever it is, stay with it. Let it be healed. And paradoxically, at this moment of destruction and the fall in consciousness, you find yourself united with the body of Gaia, with her seas, with her air, with her land. And there are some moments of connection as you rejoin her body. And together with Gaia, you start to understand what your journey through density is going to be, and how much you've sacrificed to go on that journey. And Gaia welcomes this. Her intelligence blends with your intelligence. As you become more material than you've ever been, more physical, and descend into survival consciousness. You are safe. You are loved. We are going through this again for the purpose of healing and not for the purpose of being re-traumatized. We blend our consciousness with Gaia on the physical level as we transition into different bodies, different forms. Some of us go underground, some of us into the waters, some of us leave the planet. Just trust whatever's happening for you as we move through this and clear this. If you like, you can keep moving through time, connecting through the timelines that move to the present day, through many lifetimes of creative density. And you may feel a little less connected to your angelic guides at this moment because that's what the reality was. Just stay with it, moving slowly forward through time. And perhaps start to connect to your soul spark in the midst of that density, finding your tiny spark of light in your heart that can never be diminished, no matter how far you fall in consciousness. Connecting to that soul spark. Tracing a very faint but very real pathway through this time of darkness and ignorance. Again, coming back to your body if you find yourself moving outside of it. You are safe. You are cared for. You have everything you need. Just follow the trace of your soul spark ever forward. There's another node, maybe a little bit over 2,000 years ago, where we collectively decide to start waking up again. So just find that inspiration. Reconnect to where you were then with the purpose of healing and clearing all that wants to be cleared and healed. And this movement will probably feel different. It might feel like moving through a solid rock wall, whereas before you were moving effortlessly through water. But you still move without judgment about how slow or fast it happens. Find yourself where you were when Earth found a new direction, started an ascension path. And just feel the joy deep within you of knowing that you're going to reconnect with everything that was lost and with much more. Continuing to move towards the present. maybe 1700 years ago. Beginning the Dwapara Yuga, for those of you who think about this in terms of yugas, the moving out of the Kali Yuga, the Dark Age, into the Dwapara Yuga, the first movement towards enlightenment. You find yourself starting very slowly and on a very subtle level to grow brighter. Moving forward through time. Let's say 1,000 years ago, 900, getting very close to the present. If you like, maybe take a moment to look backwards and just appreciate how far we've gone in this one moment. Almost there. Your soul spark becomes more and more obvious as you move forward towards where you are in what we call 2020. The practice of healing, balancing, forgiving, dispelling the karma continues. And easily and naturally, we find ourselves coming up on the present. Maybe 300 years ago. Moving slowly. $200. Realizing that you are the same angelic presence throughout this entire experience, with varying degrees of awareness of that. 100 years ago, let's say. 50 years. Coming into the very recent past. Some of us were alive at that time in this body. 20 years ago. I think it's safe to say we were all alive at that point in these bodies. 10 years ago. 5. And just like that, you find yourself in your recent past. At this point, just set an intention to merge completely and fully with your present body-mind. Your body-mind of April 18th, 2020, according to how we measure time. Fully and completely entering yourself. With all the lovely distractions and engagements of the present. coming back into your senses as you would usually use them. Back into your body, letting it do whatever it wants to do. Maybe just a few long breaths, maybe a sigh if you feel it, just releasing, arriving. Giving thanks for all we've experienced. Releasing any focus if you still have a focus on your angelic self or a focus in the past. Just let it blend into the present, become part of the present. And you can also, if you like, release the conscious connection to your divine guidance and your angelic family. They're still there, whether we're conscious of them or not. And whatever has or hasn't happened, let's be at peace with it. Of course, it's probably not all going to come out with one meditation, but significant progress has been made. Or maybe that is all of it. I don't know. You never know. Just coming back to when and where you are, back to your senses and your body and your room where you find yourself. We'll have a break and some time to do whatever we need to do. Get some water, stretch, write or draw, whatever feels good.